In the early hours of a tense morning in Burkina Faso, the sounds of gunfire and explosions broke the stillness in the northern region of Yatenga. It was an attempted siege by militants linked to Al-Qaeda, one of the deadliest groups operating in the Sahel. Heavily armed and well-coordinated, the terrorists believed they would overwhelm the area quickly until they met unexpected resistance. And at the heart of that resistance stood the leadership and strategy of one man, President Ibrahim Traoré. Just 36 years old, Traoré is Africa's youngest head of state, but his age belies the resolve, discipline, and military instinct he has demonstrated since taking power in 2022. A former army captain, he came to power in a coup driven by the failure of previous governments to contain the escalating jihadist violence. Since then, Traoré has taken a radically different approach: aggressive military campaigns, grassroots mobilization, and a no-compromise attitude towards terrorism. When news reached the capital that a massive Al-Qaeda-affiliated force had launched a major assault in Yatenga, Traoré didn't delay. Within hours, he ordered a coordinated military counter-operation involving elite units of the Burkinabe army and local volunteers for the defense of the homeland, also known as VDPs, civilian auxiliaries trained and equipped to defend their communities. But this wasn't just another military reaction. Traoré implemented a strategy that emphasized speed, intelligence coordination, and the full use of Burkina Faso's growing air surveillance capacity. Using drones for real-time, battlefield intelligence, the Burkinabe forces were able to track militant movements with precision. These aerial insights proved invaluable, allowing ground forces to anticipate ambushes, cut off supply routes, and target key insurgent positions. As the confrontation unfolded, the militants found themselves caught between advancing army troops and local defense volunteers who knew the terrain far better than any foreign fighter. The battle raged on for hours, then days. Despite their initial numbers, estimated at over 1,000, many of the attackers were cornered in forests and rocky terrain where retreat became impossible. The fighting was intense, with both sides sustaining losses. But Traoré's doctrine of total engagement gave the Burkinabe forces an edge. There was no retreat, no negotiation, and no political red tape. Just a singular objective: eliminate the threat entirely. By the end of the offensive, over 1,000 terrorists were reportedly killed or neutralized, making it one of the deadliest defeats for Al-Qaeda affiliates in West Africa to date. What made this operation so different wasn't just the scale of the militant casualties, it was the symbolism. This was a direct message from Traoré to terrorist groups: Burkina Faso will not be a safe haven. And more importantly, the people of Burkina Faso are no longer bystanders. They are active participants in reclaiming their land. President Traoré later addressed the nation, his tone calm but resolute. He paid tribute to the fallen soldiers and volunteers, saluted their courage, and reaffirmed his commitment to total security. "Our country will not kneel before terror," he said. "We fight for our children, our soil, our dignity, and we will win." Traoré's approach has earned him both praise and criticism internationally. While some question the human rights implications of certain operations, others applaud his results. Driven leadership in a region where state authority has crumbled in many places. Under his rule, Burkina Faso has also cut some traditional ties, opting instead for partnerships that align with national sovereignty and strategic autonomy. But on the ground, for many Burkinabe citizens, what matters most is security, being able to live, farm, and travel without fear. And for now, Traoré has given them a reason to hope. The defeat of over 1,000 militants isn't just a military victory, it's a turning point. One that shows how bold leadership, tactical innovation, and the will of a united people can push back even the darkest forces. Ibrahim Traoré's message is clear. This is only the beginning. The fight for Burkina Faso's future continues, and he intends to finish it. Just weeks after the massive victory in Yatenga, another flashpoint emerged, this time in the eastern region of Tapoa, near the borders with Niger and Benin. A convoy of humanitarian aid was ambushed by armed militants suspected to be part of the Islamic State in the Greater Sahara, ISGS. The attackers seized vehicles, took hostages, and left a chilling message. The state cannot protect you. The incident sent shockwaves across the nation, but once again President Ibrahim Traoré responded not with hesitation, but with immediate, calculated action. This time, Traoré activated a rapid deployment task force, known internally as Operation Iron Fist. The unit, trained in both jungle and desert warfare, had been formed under Traoré's leadership with a single purpose: respond swiftly and with force to asymmetric threats. What made this task force unique was its composition, a blend of elite, military personnel and hardened civilian fighters from the VDP ranks, many of whom had lost family to terrorism and were fighting with deeply personal conviction. In less than 24 hours, the task force was airborne, landing in remote zones with drone support and satellite-guided navigation. Intelligence pointed to a temporary militant camp nestled deep within a wooded area near the Penjari National Park, a zone often exploited by insurgents for its difficult terrain and cross-border escape routes. Traoré ordered the operation to be swift, silent, and absolute. What followed was a textbook example of modern hybrid warfare. Drones first circled the region, feeding data back to mobile command units. Night vision-enabled infantry teams advanced in small groups, cutting off escape routes before encircling the camp. What they found was not just a terrorist hideout, it was a logistics hub. Weapons caches, stolen vehicles, communication devices, and uniforms meant for infiltration into civilian populations. The operation ended with over 300 militants neutralized, dozens captured, and every hostage safely rescued. But Ibrahim Traoré didn't stop there. Days later, he made a surprise visit to Tapoa. There were no grand speeches, no cameras, just a quiet meeting with local elders and the families of those rescued. His message was consistent. The state is with you. The land you stand on is yours, and no force will take it from you again. He then announced the immediate construction of a permanent military outpost in the area, along with a school and a health clinic. His goal was not only to fight terror, but to rebuild trust between the state and the people, something that had long been broken in remote regions of the country. Traoré's model is simple, but powerful: reclaim, secure, and rebuild. Where terrorists once ruled through fear, he plants the flag of sovereignty, backed by action rather than promises. His leadership has shifted the perception of power in Burkina Faso, from one of helplessness to one of rising defiance. Within each operation, Traoré isn't just taking back territory, he's reclaiming the spirit of a nation long forgotten on the global stage. And through his fearless stance against terror, he's reshaping not only the security map of the Sahel, but the narrative of what is possible when a leader stands unflinchingly with his people. Not long after the success in Tapoa, the southern region of Kamoe faced a new and insidious threat. This time, it wasn't a direct assault. It was infiltration. Intelligence reports indicated that a network of sleeper cells affiliated with jihadist groups had embedded themselves within rural communities, disguising as farmers, merchants, even religious teachers. Their goal: radicalize the youth, recruit quietly, and build a base from within. The threat was more dangerous than open conflict. It meant the enemy was no longer outside the walls. They were inside villages, influencing minds, creating fear, and waiting for the perfect moment to strike from within. President Ibrahim Traoré recognized the seriousness immediately. Unlike traditional counterterrorism measures, this situation required both military precision and deep cultural awareness. So, he launched what he called Operation Guardian Flame, a multidimensional strategy combining intelligence, psychological, operations, community engagement, and rapid response forces. Traoré deployed specialized counterintelligence teams into the region, not in uniform, but as civilians. These agents mingled in marketplaces, attended local mosques, and gathered critical insights. At the same time, he sent trusted imams and scholars into the area to combat extremist propaganda with authentic Islamic teachings. The narrative had to change from fear and hate to unity and truth. Then came the enforcement phase. With precise information in hand, Task Force Omega, a new unit trained specifically for anti-infiltration missions, executed synchronized raids across the region. The goal was not just to eliminate suspects but to dismantle the entire support network. Over 70 suspected insurgents were arrested. Dozens of safe houses, bomb-making workshops, and propaganda centers were discovered. Perhaps most shocking was the seizure of foreign-supplied communication equipment, clear evidence that international terror networks were backing the cell's operations. But even in victory, Traoré understood that brute force alone wouldn't solve the problem. So he did something few leaders in such situations would dare to do. He organized community truth forums. In these forums, villagers could speak freely, report suspicious activity, and openly question the government forces about their methods. He listened. He explained. And above all, he made a promise. Burkina Faso is not at war with its people. We are at war with those who divide us. Together, we are stronger than any threat. This holistic approach, military, ideological, and social, led to a transformation in Comoé. Within weeks, families who once lived in silence out of fear began reporting suspicious newcomers. Young men who had been targeted for radicalization came forward and agreed to participate in rehabilitation programs. The region, once on the verge of collapse, found its voice again. President Traoré's response to the hidden enemy in Comoé proved that modern warfare isn't just about guns and airstrikes. It's about narrative. It's about building trust. It's about knowing when to strike and when to listen. And under his leadership, Burkina Faso is learning to do both, with courage, precision, and a vision far bigger than any single battle. With every region reclaimed, with every threat neutralized, Traoré is doing more than defending a nation. He's redefining it. And the world is starting to notice. Shortly after restoring stability in Comoé, another threat emerged, this time not from outside jihadist groups, but from within the very ranks of Burkina Faso's fractured political past. Intelligence. Agencies intercepted communications indicating that a group of former military officers and foreign mercenaries were plotting to destabilize the government from the inside. Their aim? To overthrow Ibrahim Traoré and reclaim control for the elite class that once ruled behind closed doors. It was a silent war. No gunfire, no explosions, just whispers in dark rooms, encrypted messages, and secret meetings. The plan involved coordinating false flag attacks in the capital, Ouagadougou, inciting panic, and blaming Traoré's leadership for losing control. Their hope was to trigger another coup, one that would be dressed up as a restoration of order. But they underestimated the man they sought to overthrow. Traoré, always alert and deeply connected to his intelligence networks, launched Operation Silent Shield, a preemptive counter-conspiracy campaign involving cyber intelligence, surveillance, and internal security audits. Quietly, he reshuffled certain military command positions, placing only those with unquestioned loyalty in key roles. No announcements, no public firings, just precision moves on a political chessboard. Then, in a daring stroke, he called a national security briefing live on state television. Standing beside his top generals and defense chiefs, he looked directly into the camera and said, "We know who you are, we've read your messages, we've seen your plans, and you will answer to the people not in darkness but in daylight." Within hours, special forces conducted coordinated raids in multiple cities. Safe houses were stormed. Computers were seized. Dozens of retired officers, rogue intelligence operatives, and foreign agents were arrested without a single bullet fired. Notably, Traoré insisted they be tried in public courts, not secret military tribunals. His way of proving that Burkina Faso's future would be built on justice, not vengeance. The plot unraveled completely. What was meant to spark chaos instead unified the nation. Traoré's transparency and control stunned even his critics. He didn't just stop a coup. He turned it into a lesson for all future conspirators. Burkina Faso will not fall back into the shadows of corruption and manipulation. Following the failed plot, Traoré initiated reforms within the security sector, introducing mandatory loyalty declarations, digital accountability systems, and open vetting processes for high-ranking officials. At the same time, he addressed the public directly. We are building a state that belongs to all, not to the rich, not to the generals, not to foreign hands. And we will protect it from every enemy, foreign or domestic. This moment became a turning point in his presidency. It proved that his strength was not only in battlefield command, but in navigating the complex, dangerous waters of political subterfuge. Where others would panic or react with violence, he acted with calm precision and moral authority. In the eyes of many Burkinabe, Ibrahim Traoré emerged not just as a military leader, but as a statesman. One who could crush terrorists, resist foreign manipulation, and silence traitors without compromising the principles he claimed to defend. As he walked through the streets of Ouagadougou days later, unguarded, among ordinary people, cheers erupted, not rehearsed, not commanded, but real. For them, Traoré was more than a president. He had become a symbol of a new Burkina Faso, fearless, principled, and unshakably rooted in the will of its people.